Hey guys, this is Steve Darnell from WelderUp, Vegas Rat Rods. You probably know me on from Discovery Channel. This is a kind of a special day today. I finally got done with my Indian motorcycle that I've been working on here at my shop. I've been in the process of moving for the last year and a half, so I had to put it on the back burner. And for the last 3 or 4 days, I just really went hard on trying to get this bike done. I don't really know what year this Indian motorcycle is. It is a lot of different years at this point right now. Anywhere from 31 to 40. So I could just tell you, actually 31 to 41 or 42. But this old motorcycle, I was at my buddy's place in Boise, Idaho at High Desert Harley Davidson. And my good friend Mark that owns the business, he was showing me all around and we were looking at all the motorcycles and he's like, man, what do you think of my shop? And I was like, I really can't stand none of this shit. Like all these bikes in here are just gaudy and ugly and no soul and just not, I mean, I'm not a bagger guy. I don't really care for the big Harleys and I don't know, it's just not my thing really. You know what I mean? I go, do you got anything in here that's cool? So he goes, oh, I know what you want to see. You want to see all my junk in the back. So I was like, all right, well, let's go check it out. So we go in the back and it's like where all the parted out motorcycles are, the wrecked ones, the ones that are for parts, the ones that are getting repaired. And so I go back in there and I'm kind of walking around and this old Indian's laying literally on its side. It's literally like laying there like no one gives a crap about it. And I'm like, hey, well, you know, of course the only clapped out, like completely beyond almost repair motorcycle, I'm interested in it. I'm there with a kind of a local celebrity. His name's Davey Deals. He was on like Pawn Stars and Counting Cars, and he's a good friend of mine. And we're looking at the bike, and he's like, if you don't buy that, I'll buy it. And I go, well, no, I want it. So I got with Mark, and he actually called the guy because they wanted him to fix the motorcycle, and he didn't even know where to start with it because their mechanics in there are not old school mechanics. They're, you know, guys that are working on fuel injected brand new motorcycles and putting, you know, stereos and cool things on them or whatever it is that they put on them. So we worked a deal out on the bike. I wound up getting the bike, I think, for like $5,000, which I thought was a deal. Got it back to the shop. I needed to figure out what I had here, what it was. Worked on the bike, cleaned it up, did a little work on the tanks and got all the tanks sealed up because they were leaking and rusted out, and went through a bunch of stuff on the bike, tried to get some tires put on it at the time just so I could roll it around the shop and see if we could get it to run. And I was dinking around in there one day and I didn't know if the magneto was timed on this thing, so I took it over to my buddy at Main Street Moto here in Las Vegas, and we took it in there and we dilly-dallied around with it and kicked it over and fired up. I mean, it was really cool. So I got it back to the shop and I was excited about the bike. I was getting ready to do some stuff to it. And unfortunately, the bike fell over in the shop some way. Got some really bad news. My Indian motorcycle I've been working on forever fell off the bench and probably broke the worst thing that it could have broke. I don't know how it did it. I wasn't here. Anyway. See that right there? Probably the worst place you could break anything on this bike. So I'm getting ready to tear it down. Figured you guys have been kind of following me on this journey since I started with it. So I'm going back to zero on this thing, unfortunately, but this is all gonna come out. And it'll take me a while because I don't know shit about these things. So I'm gonna learn. It's actually taken me like 2 days to be able to talk about it. To be honest with you, I've been so upset about it, but I'm not gonna give up. This is a cool motorcycle. I am learning lots. Found out the motor, and it's like a 1941 750, so it's actually a bigger motor than the 1935. I did find a case on eBay. My buddy over at Kiwi Indian Motorcycles found one on eBay. Hit me up, said you better buy it now. So anyway, pretty bad day, but we're gonna get going. It was a horrible day. So it actually fell down on this side of the bike, and it hit the oil pickup on the bottom and broke the case in. So it caved the case in on the bike, and at that point you're going to zero. You're taking everything apart. To get to that part, you literally have to take everything apart to get to it, and it was back to zero. Well, here it is in all its glory. There's our little happy face. See that little clown face? The little sad face? Okay, so I'm back here at the shop, and I got the motorcycle back here on the bench. Anyway, this is the transmission here, and I'm gonna start trying to get this put on today. Here it is. We're starting to put the frame on. This goes down in there and has to get all bolted on. Bolts on right in here. So there's the first part of it. The time I was very upset. I had a really hard time dealing with it because I was so excited about it running, and it ran so well and it sounded good. Since then, I got to that point of getting the motor back together. I got it sitting in my shop. I got it mounted on my bench, and then I had to move. And then it was 2 years of, dang near 2 years, probably a year and a half of me been moving, okay? So the whole time this bike's in the back of my mind. I mean, I'm over here at my new property now, which I love. I'm in my little shop here. This is where I'm working right now because this is all I got, which has been very peaceful and very humbling to be here. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I got to get this bike done. It's been driving me crazy forever, and I don't like Project Untied. But the great thing about it is once I got it apart, I learned, number one, I learned all kinds of things about the motorcycle. And that's really kind of what's fun about finding old stuff like this, is the discovery of what it was. It's an old motorcycle, probably don't mean a lot to a lot of people, but just the old ways that they would mod shit back in the day just makes it worth more to me, because these guys were like really giving a lot of love to these bikes, and you know, same with cars and everything else. And that's what evolved everything into performance parts today, is like those guys back in the 40s were designing these cams and lightening up Harley Davidson rods and shoving them into Indian and doing all this crazy stuff. And you know, Indian was stealing Harley shit and Harley was stealing Indian stuff, and it was just such a crazy time of progression. But anyway, I just want to give you a quick update and talk about the love that I have for something like this. It's just, I know it doesn't look like much and people don't really give a big shit about it, but it has a soul, and it still lives. And that's what I love about it. It's telling me a story every day I'm working on this thing. It tells me a story. Once I tore it all down, I went down to Riverside, and I got caught up with my buddy at Kiwi Indian Motorcycles, my good friend Michael. Very talented, very knowledgeable, has a Indian bike collection that will blow your freaking mind on rare Indian motorcycles. He's even got a snowmobile in there that Indian made that was insanely rare. And when we took it to Kiwi, and I told him, I said, hey man, when I fire this thing up before it broke, it sounds violent. Like I almost like it's missing, like it's running on one cylinder. And I go, but it doesn't. I mean, you crack the throttle in it and it runs good. So once we took it apart and we got looking in the motor, it has stroker rods in it. So it's got Harley Davidson stroker rods. It's got some Indian race pistons in it. It's got these cams in it that are unbelievable. They were built by a guy named Shunk. So these Shunk cams that this guy was building for these race bikes, probably back in the 40s, it has a set of those handmade cams in this thing, and that's why it sounds so violent. I have put a little bit of a detuned carburetor on it because the carburetor that was on it was just so wide open. When you're messing with an old bike like this, it's like one bushing. If you have one bushing or one bearing that you don't have, then it's like, you know, hey, I got to order one, get it to you, da-da-da. I figured I'd just drive down there. We did it in his shop, and one day he's got a facility. It's unbelievable, like parts everywhere in this. It's like a warehouse for Indian motorcycles, right? For old stuff like this. And so he could just literally go to the shelf, grab a piece, and we got it done. And it was so well worth the drive over there to do it. But we did the bottom end, and and then got it all put together. And then I wound up taking this thing to back to Vegas and putting it all back together. And I got it to a point of putting the old shocks back on. It had hydraulic shocks from like probably in the 50s. They were upgrading the bike, basically putting mods on it to hill climb. These old spring front ends are really kind of, you know, like for climbing. And when you have something with like actual shocks on it, it, you know, it doesn't make it so violent, you know, and it doesn't bounce. It has a rebound to it. These don't really have much of a, you know, the rebound is just doing, doing, doing. Anyway, it was originally, no shit, a hill climb motorcycle. It came with this big sprocket. I got over here on the wall, I still have the chain that went on the back tire. When I found the bike, it still had the chain on it. Like, it was legit. Last week, I probably dumped 30 hours in this bike and finally got the Springer front end for this thing and got it put together. And, you know, I wanted an old tire. The Indian tire that's on it is probably 70 years old, or, you know, it's harder than hell. The Springer front end was a little bit of work. The handlebars that are on the bike now were actually the original handlebars that were on it, but I just cut them in pieces and TIG welded them on and made them all work. I got the original kill switch back on it, because back in the old days, what they would do is they would tie onto their belt loop a card and stick it under the kill switch. So if they're going up a hill and they flip the bike and it takes off, it pulled it out and it would kill the bike. So that way you didn't get a throttle runaway. And these old bikes, you know, sometimes the throttles would run away on them. But that was the missing link to the bike, was really the top triple tree, building a set of bars for it and finding a headlight for it. I rounded up the headlight in just some old garbage I had out here in the back. And I ordered a few parts from Kiwi Indian Motorcycles, the top tree on this thing, and the bearing kit, which we had to make work. I had to make that work. I called Michael at Kiwi Indian and I said, hey man, this thing is a different, you know, the front end is probably a 30 to 31. The bike frame itself is probably anywhere from 35 to 40. So it's a little bit of a different change, and we were guessing basically, because we don't know exactly what we have. This bike's many parts, many different years. But he had this old roached out front rim and tire sitting there. And I was like, man, I really want that wheel and tire for this bike, because I just want it to look grungy, World War II, like barn find. And that's kind of how I found it, you know. It's just kind of a forgotten about old bike. And, you know, sometimes when you're working on a bike that is rare as this motorcycle, you don't find them in this state. They're just unbelievably a gorgeous motorcycle. And to even find one is really rare, to find one of these bikes nowadays. You know, it's getting harder and harder by the day. A lot of them, the guys grab them and they restore them back to brand new. And that's not me. I mean, look at it. It's got meaning. It's got soul. It's got personality. You respect it because it demands it. Looking at it, you know, it's got a bitchin' kickstart on it. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, look at this thing. It's gnarly. It's gear driven. I mean, this old thing has been kicked on a million times, and it still works. It's still in good shape, you know? I mean, this is when they built shit. I mean, how do you break that thing? Unless the bike falls over and breaks that, maybe. This thing demands respect. And that's what I love about it. And I don't want to take that away by putting too much paint on it and making it look brand new again, because that doesn't really tell the war story. This is a World War II motorcycle. The engine that's in this bike right now is a 41. So it was right in World War II, okay? The motor that's in this thing probably fought in the war at some point. You know, I know that the case that broke on this thing that I replaced was actually World War II old stock that I found to put back on the bike. I'm a real pre-war guy. I love the pre-war stuff. I like World War II. I like Industrial Revolution. But this right here is the era of sidecars. Like, this bike's set up, it is set up for a sidecar. There's a hole right here, and you can attach a sidecar to it. I don't know if it ever had one on it. Maybe, maybe not. But I would imagine probably sometime around, you know, right there after the war, they were really, you know, making this thing a hot rod. And that's what I mean. I want to keep that feel. I want to make it look like World War II. I want it to have that grungy feel. But I built the bike basically for some of the vintage races. So like, you know, RPM Nationals or Trog or some of these pre-war races with these guys that are driving, you know, pre-war cars and bikes. I want to just be able to take it and go run it down the track and have some fun with the bike. And there's a few more things I'm going to do to it. I'm going to have my cousin Dave that was on Vegas Rat Rods. He's really good with a paintbrush. I'm going to have him put Indian on both sides of the tank. And I'm going to do a few more things to it before I'm completely done. I mean, it's been a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it when you're done. You know, like I said, this is a piece it's a piece of history. It's not just some bagger that you bought at Harley for $30,000 with a radio and vibrates your seat and all that bullshit that really just doesn't mean shit to me. You know, one of the things that I really appreciate about the bike is it doesn't really ask for you to throw a bunch of store-bought parts at it. I mean, this bike is telling me, make your shit. You know what I mean? Like, there's really nothing when you buy a bike like this that you can get on eBay, really, or call the Indian dealership down here local and be like, hey, I got an Indian motorcycle. It's got like a 38 tank, a 40 frame, a 31 front, you know, Springer front end. You know, it's a hill climb motorcycle from somewhere between, you know, the mid 30s to the early 40s. And I'm looking for a kickstand. You know, they're not going to have that. So like on this bike, I just kind of whipped up my own kickstand, you know, because, you know, if you have some skills and you know how to weld a little bit and you got some imagination, you can come up with an idea and fix it. And that's how they did it back then. They didn't order parts. They would maybe go find some old motorcycles and strip parts off them, but they made a lot of their own stuff, you know? And like the handlebars that were on this were the bars that I got when I found the bike. I just cut them into pieces and made them work for what I'm doing. The bearing kit for this bike didn't fit. I made it work with everything that Michael sent me out. It was a lot to try to make it all work. You know, the headlight mounting bracket, I mean, that's all fabbed, you know, like it's not a lot of fabrication, but it's fun fabrication. It's like cool little stuff that you can come up with real quick to, you know, make the bike have its personality that it deserves. But other than that, I mean, it's just, it really is just saying, hey, just fix me. I don't care how you got to do it. Whatever you got to fix and weld and fabricate and make work. I mean, everything on this bike you could see has been torch welded together at some point in its life. And the fun of it is trying not to spend a whole bunch of money on the motorcycle and put it together. I mean, you know, it's crazy because this old motorcycle is probably worth 35 grand. You know what I mean? You wouldn't think that it'd be worth that much, but when it's done, it's running and driving, I wouldn't take any less than that for it. There's no way. But it's a cool bike, and like I said, I mean, I think that when you're working on something like this, don't be afraid to pull your welder out, your TIG welder, and make your own shit. Just put it together and go have some fun with it. Because if you want to wait on parts, that's an excuse not to get it done. Waiting on parts, you know. For me, like there's a lot of old junk laying around that you can kind of figure out and make work. You know, I just want to get it done today. I don't want to wait, you know, 5 days for something to show up and then they forget and then you next day it and they charge you for the next day but it never showed up next day. It's just bullshit. So if you can just go around your little shop and find what you want, put it together, it makes it a lot better, and it actually gives it more personality at the end of the day. It's been I don't know, one of the things in your life that you just love, and I'm not like a guy that goes and buys a bagger and rides the highway. Like, that's just not my deal. I'd rather build something like this and just go cruise it around, you know, and live that time. You know, I guess I just don't get my enjoyment out of, you know, a 500-mile trip with my luggage and a bag on the side of my motorcycle. I don't know, it's just not my thing. I would rather do it on this than a brand new fuel injected bagger with a radio, to be honest with you. I mean, I might be only doing 40 miles an hour, but it'd be kind of fun, you know, just to see if you could do it. It's the journey, and it's been the journey since I found the bike and going through everything, and that's more to me. The journey for this bike is finding it and bringing it back to life. That's the journey. The journey really isn't for me to get on this bike and drive it to frickin', you know, Sturgis. It's just, that's not the journey for me. It'd probably shake the old bike apart before I got out of town, but the journey is definitely to put it back together and give it the life that it deserves, because at one point it had some very skilled, intelligent hands on it in the 40s, building the cams and stroking the motor and doing all this crazy hot rod stuff in it way back in the old days. So it's really a cool piece of history to have here. The rawness of it just comes alive, you know. You could pull this motorcycle up in the middle of a whole bunch of motorcycles and people just walk up and want to look at this thing because it demands your respect. Because that's what it is. It's not some store-bought piece of shit that you you just driving around. You know, it's like anything nowadays. Everything's disposable in our world right now, and this was built by hands of people that thought that, you know, we were never gonna live this far, and this was a time of, we want to make it last forever, like right out of the Great Depression. This is a bike that, you know, you have to work on it. You have to maintain it. There's things on this bike that you have to do. But mechanically driven, I love it. Magneto, set the timing, put a little fuel in the carburetor, and kick it over and it runs. I love it. You know, it's really pretty simple. It's really a simple bike once you go through it, but it took me a lot to go through it to figure that out. But I wanted to share this bike with you, and some of the videos and some of the pictures and some of the journey that I've been on trying to get this thing where it's at right now. Cool little bike. Thanks for watching this video, and hopefully you'll see us out there riding it.